I'm Gabriel Dirksen, and this is my case study, Module 12. Facts of the case. St. Regis School is a small school district and has about 420 students. Um, there's 2 teachers per grade level. Mr. Keith Sample is a 3-year principal who has a good relationship and a good reputation he has been building for 3 years. Mrs. Lynn is a librarian and a media specialist. The school has 2 fundraisers during the school year. That is a key part of funding for the school. There is minimal allocated funds to support the school, so they try to do their best by reaching out to other organizations and doing 2 big fundraisers throughout the school year. PTA and school have decided to purchase new software and prioritize them to decide what to purchase. Mrs. Lynn installs software in a computer lab and makes a schedule. After a while, the teachers want the software in the classroom computers in each of their grade level rooms. Mrs. Lynn makes copies of the software on blank CDs to download. She knows it is breaking copyright issues, but wants to save the school money, knowing there are a small school away from the city. She's not too worried about getting caught by copyright issues. Issue makes teachers uncomfortable and gets reported to the principal. Mrs. Brandon is from a bigger school district, and she kind of seemed a little unsettled and uneasy about the situation that is unfolding and other teachers being okay with copyright policies being broke. Legal and ethical issues. The legal issue is the copyrighted new computer software that directly breaks the 1976 U.S. Copyright Act. Teachers know it was wrongfully copied. They try to save the little school money by cutting corners where they can. Ethical issues. Mrs. Brandon is a new teacher and she knows it's wrong. Doesn't want to get bad image at the school. And Mrs. Brandon is a new teacher and she came from a bigger school district, so she's kind of more familiar with copyright issues. But she doesn't want to upset any of the other teachers that are there, and she wants to build a good relationship. The PTA president helped Mrs. Lynn, the librarian, make these copies. So the PTA president is helping break these copyright issues. So that is another issue. Mr. Sample doesn't want to hurt his reputation. He's been there 3 years. He's trying to build a positive school culture, and he wants to continue doing that. A staff member of Regis School District knowingly broke copyright policies, and they need to gather the facts. Gather and facts is up, and then facts is up to the principal to make the appropriate decision. So Mr. Sample has to make the important decision. Facts. The people. Mr. Keith Sample is the principal of the school for 3 years now. Mrs. Lynn is a librarian and a media specialist who copyrighted the software. Mrs. Brandon is the teacher that reported it because she feels uncomfortable with the situation that is unfolding. Mrs. Williams is the experienced teacher who really thanked Mrs. Lynn for the hard work she was doing and understood the right and the need to save the school money where they can. And Mrs. Evans is the PTA president who helped Mrs. Lynn make the copies. The PTA, an unknown thing I don't know is how much influence the PTA has or how much money the PTA donates to the school or fundraises. Stakeholders, are the stakeholders informed of this? Are the stakeholders strict on their policies? How do things flow in this St. Regis School District? So those are some unknowns I had. The place is St. Regis School District. It's a rural community. It has 25 minutes from the large city, so they don't think they will be nobody will come in there and check them out for copyright issues. So the classroom setting I just kind of wondered about, is it kind of out of the way to get to the computer lab? It kind of takes away time. Are laptops becoming a thing in the school? I know funding is small, but laptops are something we could look at that would bring the software from the computer lab into the school, into the classroom computers, and they would not have to lose that transition time is a thing I thought of with laptops. The program at the school is a K-8 program. There's 2 teachers per grade level. There are 2 sped teachers. One does K4 and the other does 5-8. The computer lab is in the school, and it does take educational time away from the students because they have to do that. And then there is minimal funding allowed for the school to have, so they have to do the fundraisers and make every dollar count. So saving money on software is important. Review. 1976 U.S. Copyright Act was violated by the librarian who tried to save the school money and copy computer software. Stakeholders could be harmed because, if caught, would give bad reputation to the school and small community. Action of Mrs. Lynn made Mrs. Brandon and maybe other teachers uncomfortable with the decision of the copyright issue, knowingly doing it and still moving forward with that and putting them in the classroom computers. The copyright laws and policies of schools needs to be looked at along with the school's internet acceptable use policies, and make sure all the guidelines are being followed there, and make sure Mrs. Lynn, who is following principal orders, is within her rights, or if she has done something wrong. Mr. Sample needs to review and reflect on the laws and guidelines to make an appropriate decision. If rules and regulations of policies or laws are being broke, he needs to step in and take adequate action in trying to smooth this over before anything very serious does happen. So the options. Option 1 is take no action. Ignore the copyright breach and continue as normal. Option 2, talk with Mrs. Lynn about copyright policies. Review with the staff the copyright policies. Contact software copies, see guidelines with the software. So contact the company and see if they have guidelines with the software, like Microsoft Office or Word. They let you make more than one copy per CD. So see if there's some guidelines like that would help stretch your penny a little farther. Purchase more if necessary. Need for accessibility in the classroom is evident, so getting those allocated funds, extras to support the classroom, that need is definitely there. Inform stakeholders of what has happened and destroy the copies of the software. Option 3, ignore the copyright complaint. Use the illegal copies in the classroom. Save money where you can. Let the teachers know that is the plan, and kind of just turn a blind eye to it and get them to support saving money for the school district. Option 4, Mrs. Lynn knows she was making copies wrongfully. Fire Mrs. Lynn. Put Mrs. Brandon in charge. Inform stakeholders of the change, and let the staff know of the internet acceptable use policy. So evaluate each option. Option 1, pro. Experienced teachers that have been there will be happy. They let them save money by making illegal copyrighted software CDs, so it will save the school money. Cons, ignoring the policies and illegal action, not doing what is ethical, leaving teachers feeling uncomfortable. It could hurt Mr. Sample's reputation with the new teachers that are coming into the district, and maybe stakeholders that have been here that know the copyright policies were broke. Option 2 is the ethical choice. Professionally inform Mrs. Lynn of the correct way to handle the situation, inform software company, and review its options. Cons, Mrs. Lynn might be upset, but it is the ethical choice. PTA may not approve of spending more money to get the software into the classrooms. Option 3, pros, save school money and keeps the long-term teachers happy. Cons, not the ethical solution. Turning a blind eye to the problem could disrupt the positive culture that Mr. Sample has worked so hard to get, and it might hurt his reputation with new teachers that are coming into the district to help build his school. He would need to keep those relationships healthy. Option 4, pro, a situation was handled. Laws and regulation held to high standards at the school. Cons, it could ruin relationships. Harsh punishment to an experienced teacher could disrupt the school culture. It could cause a lot of dissonance within the district and might upset some stakeholders and other teachers that are there. Best option. Option number 2, it informed all stakeholders, acknowledged the legal and ethical issues, and took appropriate action. It informed Mrs. Lynn of the misconduct and took appropriate action to make the situation legal with new software in the classrooms. implementing the decision. You want to inform all the stakeholders. I would collaborate with my superintendent and my other administrators, if they are any, and the board members to approve the action of moving forward with letting Mrs. Lynn know, and then um, getting the appropriate money to purchase the software to get the software in the classrooms. I would then privately discuss with Mrs. Lynn about the necessary actions to move forward. And even though that we do appreciate all her hard work into trying to save the school a little bit of money, it does infringe on some policies and regulations we do have in place. Hold a faculty discussion for safety and procedures for the future. Know that you are adamant and that you will hold a stronghold to the policies and regulations and laws of our handbook that we have. Supply legal, paid for new software to install in the classroom computers. And then, as the principal, you want to monitor and supervise the process. Having a little bit of dissonance with Mrs. Lynn and correcting what she did to make it legal and ethical. You might have some uneasy feelings, but you just need to constantly reinforce them and be positive with them as the week goes on, to make sure this smooths over nicely. Plan B. This is if Plan A doesn't work. If issues of copywriting still occur, Plan B will take an effect. Administrators and board members of education discussion. So you get your board members to discuss how you want to handle this farther. How I would do it, I would relieve Mrs. Lynn of her media duties. I would then inform the stakeholders that I have found another person to do the job, and I would put Mrs. Lynn back in just the library. I would replace the position with a knowledgeable staff member who will follow laws and policies that are put in place to correctly supply our school with software that would make a positive learning environment for our students. And we only, as educators, we need to set the right example. Yes, copyright, and maybe probably in a small district we could get away from it, but is that the right thing to do? Students are always looking at us, and we need to be examples and role models for them. Resume school functions as normal. Build positive relationships with staff members and give encouragement to keep working hard. So it might be an uneasy, unsettling time to deal with it as the week goes on, but knowing that you did the right and the ethical thing would make you proud as a principal. And I think all your teachers should get around that and support that. Even though you're trying to save money, you can't always do that. You have to follow some laws and regulations that will keep your school culture a happy and healthy place. Thank you for listening.